Hello, friends, and welcome back to College Football Game Day Live. I am your host, Thor Nystrom, joined as always by Mike Farrell of Mike Farrell Sports. Today, as always, for the next 90 minutes, Mike and I are going to be going through our best bets on today's card and getting through all of your audience questions. So type them into the chat right below us, and we will get to them as we get through today's show. I believe you have to be subscribed to type those questions in there. So you can also just click subscribe if you aren't already, and you can get your questions in, and we will get to them. Like I said, please also hit the thumbs up button right beneath our faces. Helps us get the word out there, and we can get right into this thing. Mike Farrell, let's just dive right into the biggest game of the day. Let's just do that with Penn State, Ohio State. Let's just get right into this thing. What's your angle on this game, and who do you like?
I like the under. These are two teams. Ohio State doesn't have the same offense that they've had in the years past. Kyle McCord's still a guy I don't trust. I don't like their offensive line. I don't like the offensive line matchup against that defensive front of Penn State as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of negative plays on that side. And Penn State's going to play conservative. They don't throw the ball down the field very often. They run the ball. They play, a physical brand of football. They want to, control the clock. So to me, if I'm leaning on a side, I'm going Penn State. And I know the history of James Franklin against Ohio State, and I know they can't win the big game and all that other stuff. I'm not really sold on this Ohio State team as a whole, but I like the under better. I think it's an okay line. I wish it was a little bit higher. I mean, if you could get it at 47 or something like that, it'd be great. But for me, I think a low-scoring game in the cold. I don't know if it's going to rain there or not. I got to check your website, but just give me the under here, and if you really want to take a side, go Penn State.
Yeah, speaking to that line right now, the across the marketplace, this thing has dropped down to 4. Whereas when we went to bed last night, it was at 5. It seems like the development that has dropped that down a point is the news this morning that from Pete Thamel that it appears as though Travion Henderson is going to play. They're calling him a game time decision, but it appears that it's trending towards that he's going to play. But Thamel reported that it looks like Emeka Egbuka and, importantly, Denzel Ward will both likely miss this game, according to his report this morning. That will hurt Ohio State, obviously, if that ends up being the case. Very interesting handicap here. We'll peg it at 4 right now. Neither of these teams so far has played a strength of schedule inside the top 50. That you have to peg in your handicap. Is that the reason that Penn State hasn't opened up their offense, that you don't see them throwing down the field, or is that just what their offense is? Obviously, Denzel Ward not being on the field is going to aid Penn State a little bit, maybe allow James Franklin to be a little bit more comfortable allowing Drew Allar to throw down the field for the first time this season. We have seen in the very few instances where Penn State's been a little bit tested in games this year, they have gotten a little bit more aggressive. In this game, they're going to have to be. The analgam for an Ohio State game that was like this one, or an opponent that they played that was like this one for me, was Notre Dame. A similar kind of defense to Penn State's. Penn State's defense better than Notre Dame. Ohio State badly struggled in that game, it should not have won that one. I think Notre Dame finished with a 65% post-game win expectancy. We all know what happened at the end of that one. Penn State, number 2 SP plus defense. I think they're going to be able to force Ohio State to play one-handed here. I don't particularly care that Travion Henderson is returning to this game. Ohio State has struggled running the ball all season, especially again, they haven't played as many of these elite run defenses, but particularly when they have, that's going to put a lot of pressure on Kyle McCord, particularly a passing offense where, of course, you have Marvin Harrison, this sort of singular talent of the sport, but Egbuka is not there. So, I mean, it's sort of the one-handed show there. Penn State has the awesome pass rush. They have the awesome secondary as well. Penn State is number 1 in the nation in terms of not allowing on-target balls to receivers in stride. I think I butchered the explanation of that, but hindering those on-target in stride targets to receivers. their defensive backs are so good at getting their hands on balls or redirecting the routes and different stuff like that. And McCord is going to have to be locking in on Harrison in this game. The other data point that I would point to is the elite defense that Penn State has faced. I mentioned they haven't faced a great strength of schedule yet. They have played one elite defense, though, so far. They played Iowa. Iowa has the horrible offensive course, but they have the elite defense. I believe Iowa has the number one SP plus defense right now. In that game, Penn State scored 31 points, nearly 400 yards of total offense. Drew Allar had 400, or I'm not 400 yards for him, 4 passing touchdowns in that game. I watched every snap. Unfortunately, I wish I hadn't. If Iowa had put up any fight on offense whatsoever, all those numbers would have been higher. It's just that Penn State sat on the ball in the second half of that game. I like Penn State in this game. James Franklin's 4-14, as everybody knows, in his career against Ohio State and Michigan. This is the circle the wagons game. I've been talking about since the summer that I think Ohio State is a bit down this year, that I think that Penn State is up relative to James Franklin's recent history this season. This is an enormous opportunity for James Franklin, and you get Ohio State in this spot where they're a little bit depreciated besides because of their injuries. I'm riding the dog. I have a ticket at 4.5. It's now at 4. But I'm going to ride with Penn State in a game that I think is more or less a coin flip. Mike, I got some props in this game. I don't know if you do. I'll let you start if you do.
Yeah, before you get to those though, if people care about this stuff, Penn State 7-0 against the spread in their last 7 games.
Love
I mean, they are really, and you mentioned you have this theory that James Franklin loves to cover, and
Yeah,
I don't
he does.
subscribe to that, honestly. I don't think James Franklin gives a crap about the spread, but there is a theory that now in this game, who cares? James Franklin is going to try to cover. No, he's going to try to win the game. But this is an interesting one too, because 5 of the last 6 Ohio State games have gone under too. And Trevion Henderson is a big deal. So he was ruled out, and then just recently he was listed as questionable. And we saw, the report, Pete Thamel's in Columbus. So he's getting intel directly. I think he might play. Now, does that change everything? We already talked about how, Penn State is good up front and all that stuff. I'm with you on Penn State. I don't feel confident enough to take them just because of the history with James Franklin and all that stuff, even if he does do well against the spread. As far as props, Marvin Harrison, 91.5. It's actually gone to 90.5 live on DraftKings. Over. This kid is he's special. Obviously, he doesn't have the weapons around him. In fact, Buka doesn't play and all that good stuff. It doesn't matter. They're going to feed him. Kyle McCord is a guy who doesn't go through a lot of progressions. Actually, Ohio State quarterbacks don't go through a lot of progressions, which is amazing why C.J. Stroud's so good in the NFL, because, they tend to lock on, and it's 1 progression, 2 progressions, the ball's out. First target is going to be Marvin Harrison pretty much in every play. So that's kind of the prop that I'm going for. Marvin Harrison over 90.5 yards. Anytime touchdown score for Marvin Harrison is also, pretty safe. But I'm really big on Harrison today. That doesn't mean Ohio State's going to win. I just think he has a big day.
The total of this game, 45.5. I listened to a lot of smart people this week advocating for the under, and I know that that total got pushed down a little bit. I actually lean towards the over. I'm sorry. I've watched this Penn State team. I feel my theory on it is that they have hidden some of that offense because of the competition that they played. In the games where they needed it, that's where you see a little bit more aggression. And I don't know. I just like the talent that they have there. I love their offensive line. It's been awesome in the pass pro, and it's been better in the run blocking this year than it was last
but
year.
They haven't played anybody.
They haven't.
Not one team with a pulse, an offensive pulse, or I just that's my problem, is that I don't know what I'm seeing from Penn State.
Sure, but in the isolated incidents when they did, that's when you saw those instances of a little bit more offensive aggression. In this game, certainly they're going to need it. And Drew Allar has a big league arm. Like we know that he does.
No doubt.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we're going to get more. I don't think I'm going out on a limb whatsoever by saying this. I think we're going to get more offensive aggression from Penn State. And Ohio State, their offense, they just generate explosive plays. So I tend to lean towards the over, and that's going to inform some of these prop picks that I'm giving you guys. Drew Allar, I really like his over in passing yards in this game. It was set at, or at least what I got was 184 and a half.
It's low, really low.
Really low, yeah. Um, Again, he's going to get protected because of that offensive line. He's going to have time in the pocket. And I do think, I tend to think the game's going to be close, whatnot, but a back and forth sort of affair. And they're going to need him to throw. Kyle McCord, this one I'm not as confident in, but I do go over on that one as well. The number I got was 234 and a half. And that's despite Egbuka being out and Travion may or may not, looks like right now trending towards being back. But it's another one where they're going to have to go through the air. Penn State has the really good pass defense. But again, I think the way that this game goes is both offenses are going to have to skew more aggressive. I like the Nicholas Singleton over 54 and a half rushing yards was another one I was on. Theo Johnson over 19 and a half receiving yards. Penn State likes to use their tight ends. And so that was one I was on. The last one I was on was Kyle McCord over a half of an interception. That Penn State secondary, like I was mentioning, is absolutely nasty. Kyle McCord is going to have to put the ball in the air quite a bit. And like you mentioned, Mike, they put him onto those reads where sometimes you can tell where he's going. He sort of telegraphs it a little bit. I think there's going to be a time or two in this game where King or one of those guys steps right in front of it and flips the field on him. So those are my props in this one. Mike, moving to our next game, also a noon Eastern kickoff. UCF travels to Oklahoma in a Big 12 kickoff today. The line on this one is dropped. It was 19 earlier this week. It has come all the way down live here to 17 and a half. We might even have some books where it's flirting with the 17 number, Oklahoma being favored in Norman. My line on this, though, interestingly, it has been way beneath the market all week. My line on this one is 13 and a half. Mike, who do you like in this game between the Sooners and UCF?
And back to the props, Theo Johnson over 19 and a half receiving yards it's another, like, that's a good one. He's going to have a pretty good day for Penn State, I think. So I like the over here. I don't like this line. Oklahoma's going to win this game. UCF's struggling with their move to the Power Five, and they're going to be fine for UCF fans out there. They're going to be fine. I mean, the recruiting is up. They're starting to recruit a higher level of athlete, and all of that comes with your transition into, a step up in competition. And Oklahoma is very good against the spread. I mean, if you bet Oklahoma, you're winning every time, 7-0 in their last 7 games against the spread. And UCF's bad against the spread, 2-8 against the spread in their last 10 games. I mean, just bad. But the over, 5 of the last 6 UCF games have gone over. 6 of the last 8 Oklahoma games have gone over. This is going to be a offense at Oklahoma where UCF cannot stop. And UCF's going to be behind, so they're going to have to try to, move the ball. The Oklahoma defense, I don't think is great. Yeah, they played great against Texas, or at least better than we expected against Texas. Venables is an improvement for sure, but there's still susceptibility there, and I think UCF can put up some points. So give me the over on this one. I'm not touching the side.
I'm going with UCF here. I'm taking the points. I was able to get it at 18 and a half earlier this week with the more calcification of the news that John Rice Plumlee is going to return and be healthy.
Another good word.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
What the hell is with you? It's calcification.
It's all for you, Farrell. This line is come down closer to the 17 and a half or 17. But we knew that Rice Plumlee was going to come back. And it appears that this isn't going to be like, Mike, you remember that game against Kansas when he returned earlier this year and we saw him for like 2 series and then they had to yank him again because he clearly wasn't healthy and ready to go, whatever. It appears as though he's actually back now, that they held him out for a couple more weeks. Now he's ready to go. We only saw John Rice Plumlee healthy and completing games the first 2 games of this year. That was against Penn State and then Boise State. And UCF won both those games. They look good in both those games. Ever since then, he's been banged up. And that's where UCF, the fortunes of that team has sort of gone the other way. And of course the schedule has gotten better since then or whatever. But despite that fact, UCF, despite playing without Plumlee for most of the season, they're still number 21 SP plus offense, and they've still managed to be efficient on offense. Their rushing attack, number 18 success rate. UCF is also number 9 passing explosion without playing with Plumlee for most of this season. The UCF defense, where they struggle, it's defensive run rate. They're 123rd, but the Knights are very good, or I shouldn't say good, but relatively, as opposed to their run defense against the pass. UCF number 45 success rate against the pass, and they're number 23 against passing explosion. That is the defensive profile that you would pick against this Oklahoma team that definitely skews and leans towards being pass first. Because of all those reasons, and John Rhys Plumlee being so valuable to this team, mostly with his legs, but then also he also gives you that explosive passing element. His arm is stronger than people realize. He's a baseball player, and he's got a gun on the baseball field as well. Because of all those different things, I'm Oklahoma's defense is certainly better than it was last year, but the mobility aspect and the running and RJ Harvey and everything like that, I think UCF is going to be able to keep this thing way closer. Like I said, my line was UCF, or was Oklahoma minus 13.5. To me, that's where objectively this line should have been all week long. So I'm going to take the points with UCF in this game. And I have some props. Mike, do you have any in this game?
Yeah, I mean, just nothing crazy. I'm not. So I like the team total over for Oklahoma, which is 41.5. I think they're going to put up 45 or so, which is, again, part of the reason why I like the overall over. And RJ Harvey over 67.5 yards rushing.
Oh, I'm on that one too.
Yeah.
Big fan of the Harvey over in this one. You can run on Oklahoma. You can run on them a bit, and then you can throw deep on them. It's like sort of the two things. If you can establish that run, get them up a little bit, and then hit those explosives over the top. So that was the thinking with Harvey. I also think John Rhys Plumlee, assuming we get a full game from him, I based on the reports that I'm seeing, like of where he's at with his health, I think that's what we're getting. So I also went over on his fantasy points on the prize picks. I don't know if the sports books have any of that stuff, but he was like 19.5 on that. But I was also over on the Harvey thing. I went under on the Dylan Gabriel passing. He was set at 306.5, where I got it earlier this week. I don't know where that's at right now, but UCF better on the pass defense, like we were sort of mentioning. And then with where this line is set, there's a couple different ways the game script could go where, naturally there could be less throwing in the second half for Oklahoma, different stuff like that. I just skew that one a little bit under as far as Gabriel goes. I also went under on Drake Stoops, who was set 65.5 in receiving yards. So I also went under on him. Those are my props in that one. All right, Mike, are you ready for the game of the day? Perhaps the game of the century?
I don't even – I mean, you know what my pick is, so I might as well just leave. I can leave for 5 minutes, and you can talk about this garbage football game. So everybody knows
come on, Mike. Mike, this is the game of the season.
First of all, secondly, I wanted to throw a rumor out there that might disturb you throughout the day.
Oh, no.
Have you heard the rumor about Jalen Daniels, sitting out the rest of the season so he could transfer to USC?
Oh, okay, Mike. Why are you gaslighting me?
I don't know.
That one came out of left field too.
Well, it was brought up to me. Rick Neuheisel brought it up to me on my on Full Ride Radio on Thursday. He just hit me out of the blue with it, and I don't have a care about Kansas or, But I thought of you immediately. I'm like, this is going to send you into an absolute tailspin. And watching this football game, because you live in Minnesota, because you're an Iowa guy, this is going to further your tailspin. I hope you have a lot of booze today. Do you have a lot of booze at home?
Well, both this, if Minnesota's doing better in this game, then I think that they will. But also, yeah. I mean, we should be fine in that regard as well if we need it in celebration or in mourning. But no, I did hear both the rumor that right from the get that Daniels' thing could be worse than we think. He may be sitting the rest of the year, and then also that he might want to return home. I would just suggest to Jalen, hey pal, maybe look at the quarterback rooms there at UCLA and USC. I don't
Well,
think you want to
yeah,
do a Colin Schlee.
Dante Moore is going nowhere, and Malachi
Yeah,
Nelson is a 5-star number one player in the
exactly.
country last year for me. So yeah, I wouldn't go anywhere. But I
Yeah,
just decided to throw that in there because you mentioned Kansas, and it just brought it to me. But let's get into this
yeah.
garbage game. Under.
Yeah, so Minnesota and Iowa playing at Kinnick today. And Mike, with that over under right now with where we sit at 30 and a half, if this thing closes where it's at right now, this would be an all-time record in college football. That was set last year, hilariously, in the Minnesota Iowa game that was
Weird.
played in Minneapolis. That
And
one
what
closed at
happened?
31 and a half.
And what happened?
It went under easily.
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 It wasn't even close to over. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
And then the one that's the third lowest total in college football history was the bowl game between Iowa and Kentucky a month later. That one easily went under too. I think that one was 21 to nothing. Iowa was the final of that one. But this one is going to be a lower total, it appears, than both those. No total has ever been beneath 31. And that's where we sit in the marketplace of this one right now. I've also seen the line of this game has dropped to Iowa -3. So, Mike, tell the people what you're seeing in this one.
Under. So the Tory Taylor Heisman talk needs to begin.
Yeah.
He's the best weapon they have. This is an absolute embarrassment for a Power Five football program to be this inept on offense. It's just embarrassing. And honestly, the defense every game has to prepare, to give up, I don't know, 10, 11 points. They know they have to play, and they must be so frustrated with this dog duty awful offense. And Brian Ferentz has no business running this offense, and Kirk Ferentz is nepotism running strong. Everything about Iowa. Now again, they're probably going to go 11-1.
Yeah.
They're definitely going to be the Big Ten title game, and that's going to be, it's fascinating. This is the most fascinating team, where the punter is the best weapon. They can't move the football. And guess what? To add to this, guess how high the winds are in Iowa? 20-mile-an-hour winds.
No way.
Yeah, 20-mile-an-hour winds.
Wow. So that thing because earlier this week I saw that they were projecting the winds higher. Then it had gone down, like beneath that threshold. So that is ticked back up. That is hilarious. And that would speak to, perhaps why we're seeing some late steam on the under, in addition to both these offenses being
That's
just abominations.
a little why it's low. I think it opened at 31.5. You can get it probably at 30.5 some places. But yeah, so you take 20-mile-an-hour, and I'm not even going in on Minnesota. I mean, they're horrible too. They can't throw the ball. Look at the passing props. This is what's hilarious. Callie and Macus, 118.5 yards. Or Callie Vanis, 118.5 yards. Deacon Hill, 101.5. And I would go under on both of those passing totals. I mean, This is arguably the worst offensive game you're ever going to see in your entire life. You're going to be happy. It's going to be 7-3 or maybe 6-3 at halftime, and you're going to be cashing tickets. I would go first half under. I would go first quarter under. I would go 3/4 under. I would go every under you could possibly do here. I don't know who's going to win. I don't like this line. I'm not touching the line. 3.5, that's a field goal and a hook on two horrible football teams that rely on, field position and field goal kickers in a 20-mile-an-hour wind. No. Just under everything. And prop wise too, under everything, except maybe the running backs. Caleb Johnson's at 60.5. You could, LaShawn Williams, 61.5, but everything else under.
Mike, I think you meant one horrible football team. You were casting some aspersions at the future 11-1 Big Ten title bound Iowa Hawkeyes.
If they were in the East,
can't stand
they would
that.
be 3-3. No, 3-4 in the East. Maybe 2-5.
I don't know about that.
But I would lean Iowa if I were taking a side. That's my thing. I would lean Iowa taking the side.
So definitely on the under with you. On Sunday night, last Sunday night, I bought my under 32.5 ticket when the thing dropped. At that time, this was the third lowest total in college football history. I did my little thread on the other two, lowest totals in college football history, and said that we were on record watch for this game, where this was in play to break the record. That's what has happened. The market has dropped this thing beneath that 31 or whatever, where we are now in play to break that record. I love the under for reasons I'll get into in a second. I'm also on Iowa in this one. I ended up laying the 3.5. It's gotten to 3. I wish I'd known that it was going to get there. I got skittish when it got to the 3.5. I'd been waiting on the number. I at least had the discipline for that, because earlier this week this line was at 6.5 or 6. I knew the market was going to be buying on Minnesota, so I did wait, but it got to 3.5. I ended up laying it with the Hawkeyes. I'm still comfortable there. Certainly at the 3, I'm happy with that too. I think this Minnesota team is bad. But starting with the total, what people need to understand, Iowa's offense, they went out and they signed Cade McNamara. They were excited about that. He was injured at the beginning of the season, shouldn't have been playing. He's now out for the year. Then their offense, all they do is they throw to the tight ends. Their wide receivers are literally FCS level. You can't throw to them. The 2 tight ends they had are good, and they are NFL caliber. They are both out for this season. Luke Lachey and Eric All. And recall, last year, Sam Laporta was their tight end. He is off to the NFL. Now they are down to a 5th or 6th year senior who has been on the roster for a long time. We have just never seen him. I'm a diehard Iowa Hawkeye fan. I had to look into that kid's bio to become more familiar with him, the kid that we're going to be seeing today at tight end, because I didn't know much about him. So that's the Iowa offense. They can run the ball a little bit. Their offensive line has gotten better from what it was last year when it was not good at all. And the running backs weren't very good last year either. Mike, you mentioned that the 2 guys that are the primary backs in that rotation. They have a couple other guys too, so they can quasi go 4 deep. But the passing game is an abomination. You don't have to worry about it at all. Big Deke energy, Deacon Hill stinks. He's this big, portly, the hefty righty kind of guy. But he has the slightest amount of mobility. He was not blessed by God with touch. All he can do is throw fastballs, and he doesn't see the field well. So it's really hard to just do anything with him aerially. He's just, he'll just fling, like even if it's a screen pass, he's just flinging these fastballs. On the Gopher side, I had heard last week that they were going to get Cody Lindenberg back for this game, their star middle linebacker, who has not played 1 snap all year. He was like a surprise inactive for the Nebraska game, has not been back all year, but I had heard good things last weekend about his potential availability for this game. It's been trending that way. This would be big for the Gophers to get him back in this game, because Cody Lindenberg is their best run defender. Minnesota's run defense has sagged a bit this year relative to where they thought it would be, but that makes sense when your best run defender is unexpectedly then out for the year up till this point, especially against an Iowa team that cannot throw. All they're going to do is run. That would be a big development for them. Minnesota is also going to be getting back Darius Taylor in this game, who's their standout young running back. That would help too, although, against this Iowa defense, certainly the Gophers are going to need all the help they can get. Iowa's defense, I mentioned before, number 1 SP+. Iowa also has the number 10 special teams unit. That's what they use in conjunction with one another to just like anaconda wrap themselves around you and just squeeze. They're happy just doing like the 3 and out, punting to you from midfield, pinning you inside the 5, watching you go 3 and out. You got to punt back to them. They get the ball at the 50. They do the same thing, and they'll just keep doing that with you till you screw up, and they'll get a defensive touchdown or they'll get a special teams touchdown. They'll just keep doing that and frustrate you, whatever. Both these teams play super duper slow. On the Gophers side, that's just pragmatic. The Gophers offense ranks 77th SP+. Ethan Kaliakmanis has not worked out, their quarterback. They have a really hard time throwing, so they have an elevated run rate. The Gophers do 65%. The Taylor return is going to help, but they just do not have enough on offense. Last year, you saw in this game that had the really low total. What did PJ Fleck do? He was risk averse as could possibly be. He ran Mo Ibrahim into the ground in this game. He gave him like 40 touches, and Mo Ibrahim performed admirably well. But at the end of that game in the 4th quarter, the Gophers got into the red zone and had a shot to do something to try to flip the outcome of that game. Mo Ibrahim finally fumbled because he had just been worked into the ground. This game, you don't have the same recourse. You can't give a true freshman in Darius Taylor 40 touches in this game. I like Iowa to win this one. 3.5. I'm fine laying that one. I don't see how these two offenses are going to combine, put up more. Even the lowest total in college football history. To get over that number, it is going to have to be a special team and defensive touchdown, and maybe even two of them. These offenses are horrid. And you have the elite defense with Iowa, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Minnesota is going to be in horrid field position all game long. That's why we love the under in this one. Mike, I got some props in this one, unless you want to kick it off on that if you have any.
I just every passing and receiving under.
That's basically the theme of mine. So I'm going under Deacon Hill, a half of a touchdown pass. I'm going under Ethan Kelly-McManus, a half a touchdown pass. I'm going, Mike, you mentioned this one. I'm going under Ethan Kelly-McManus, 116 and a half passing yards. I went Nico Reganey. The book set him at 20 and a half receiving yards, one of Iowa's receivers. Deacon Hill badly struggles to even get the ball on the outside. The only thing he had success doing in his first couple of starts was forcing the ball to Eric All over the middle or whatever. The accuracy is so bad, on the outside. It really struggles doing that. So I went under on Reganey. I also went under on the Gophers receiver, Corey Crooms, 27 and a half. So lots and lots of unders. Mike, let's we'll get to an ad break here, and then we're going to open our mailbag for the first time. So anyone out there, you have any questions on today's card, bets you're considering, props you're considering, sides, whatever it is, type it into the chat really quick. Mike and I are about to open our mailbags. We'll get to it here in 1 second. But before we do, wanted to encourage everyone who is not yet to download the free Betting Pros app for iOS and Android. The app is great. I use it every day. I literally do. Track your picks, customize analytics on your performance. You can sign up for movement alerts with the lines. We've been mentioning already today, several of these lines that have moved literally just this morning. You get dings on your phone when you set it up. Like when it hits this line, then I want to ding on my phone and alert. And then you can lock in your bet at the ideal line, just sort of like the stock market. You can also follow different people. You want to follow Fitz, his bets, his prop bets, or Erickson's prop bets, or Debro's prop bets in the NFL. You can do that. You can get alerts on them. You can follow me. So when I put my bets in on Sunday night for the next week's college football games, you'll get those alerts on your telephone if you turn those notifications on. So head on over to bettingpros.com/apps. To start setting your line alerts, or download the Betting Pros app in iTunes or Google Play stores today. Mike, let's open that mailbag and see what is on the people's minds today. Let's see. Sam Young says, "What's up, fellas? What's up, Sam?" He says, "Love the show. Appreciate that, Sam." Thoughts on the Buckeyes game today? We hit that one at the beginning, so you probably heard that one, Sam. And Sam asked about the Harrison props, and Mike liked the over on that one, Sam. Don Playa says, "How do you feel about Miami, Ohio +2 today?" Thanks for the question, Don. Happy you asked. That one is not on our card to discuss today. I do have a play on it, though. I like the Red Hawks at home in that game against Toledo. I'm taking the 2. I also wet the beak a little bit on the money line. It's more or less, in general, I'm a matchup handicapper, where you get into the strengths and the weaknesses and the advanced numbers with the team and you line them up. It's not that this is the greatest matchup of all time for Miami, because the most pronounced analytical weakness of the Toledo defense, it's their run defense, and Miami, that's not the strength of their offense. The passing game is for Miami with Gabbert's younger brother, whatever. It's more that I think this Toledo team is an imposter. And I think that Miami, you can just look through Toledo's box scores. They've been, playing with fire every single week against this procession of just terrible opponents and just skating by at the end or whatever. Whereas I think this Miami of Ohio team, they're a team that I have a futures bet on to win the conference. They're a team that I was bullish on, and they've been exceeding expectations on the other side of it. They're also on a great streak against the spread. I think Miami's covered like 6 straight, something like that, 7 straight. Toledo on the other side, I'm doing this off memory, so forgive me if I'm a game or two off. But Toledo, I believe, is something like 0-6, 0-7 in their last 6 or 7 as a favorite. So, I realize this is as a short favorite, but it's indicative of what I'm talking about, where Toledo has not been living up to expectations of either the public or the sports book yet this far this season. So I just feel like this is a perfect spot for Miami to pick them off on their home field. Mike, did you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I agree. I think Toledo is, they've been playing with fire too much, and Miami, Ohio is at home. After the old which is the better Miami loss,
Yeah.
when they got drilled by Miami 38-3, they've been very consistent. They've beaten,
Haven't lost since, Mike.
and they've beaten some okay. I mean, they beat Cincinnati. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
pretty good win. Not that Cincinnati didn't think great, but and consistently, as you mentioned, they were an underdog against Cincinnati. They won outright. They covered against UMass, Delaware State, Kent State, Bowling Green. Western Michigan was close, but I think they're going to win this football game. They're at home, and Toledo's finally going to sort of the mistakes they make are going to catch up to them today.
Jordan Onke says, Thor, great call with Hoover last week. Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it. He's talking about Josh Hoover, the TCU quarterback that came in. Yeah, the book set him way too low, and then he threw for over 400 yards. So we more than doubled that number up. So that was a good one. Appreciate the shout out on that. Don Draper says, favorite player props of the day. Don, stick with us because we have a whole bunch more that Mike and I are going to be hitting throughout the episode. I'll point one out as like a favorite by the end of this one. I promise. I'm sure Mike will too. So, but yeah, we're going to be hitting a ton more player props over the next hour.
Mine has to do with Caleb Williams.
Oh,
so there's a little hint.
Mike, I also have a Caleb Williams prop that I feel pretty confident on. Yeah. So there's some foreshadowing. Robert Moore asks us, what are your thoughts on the Air Force and Navy game? Air Force has a prop to score 22.5 points. And can the over be a play of 33.5? Mike, do you have any thoughts on the Air Force and Navy game?
I mean, that's a low number, I get, but, neither of these teams really light it up offensively. I do like Air Force, as a program. Navy beat the Pogies, and they shut out the Pogies, which is really, not easy to shut out the Pogie football team. But I don't like the over. I don't like that number. I'm not touching this game at all.
Yeah, I would. I think I would actually shade that under. As far as the Air Force team score, the over under, at least what I'm seeing on my sheet, is 35.5. I don't know if that is, but yeah, roughly, mid 30s, whatever. But we got 10.5 Air Force favorite, something like that, on the road in that game. But recall, Zach Larrier is out, the Air Force starting quarterback. They got to go to their backup in this one. Then you have the travel in this one. Then you have the thing of the Service Academy laying double digits. Then you have the thing of the Service Academy laying double digits on the road. Then that thing of to another Service Academy. You start adding a lot of those things, and then you look at the historical over the last 25 years, the cover rate on that is pretty poor. So you extrapolate that to the prop of that favorite score. I would have to go under on that one, particularly because they're playing their backup quarterback in this one. I don't love Navy, but because of all those factors, I would have to shade under. I would the total in that one. I'm going to stay away from that one because I'm already advocating hard for a low as can be total today. But for the Air Force, their team won. I'll shade that one under. Snook Slayer asks us, also waiting to hear thoughts on Air Force. Okay, yeah, we just talked about that one. Cool Thugger Jackson, our buddy, he asks us, good morning, guys. Hope all is well, and thank you. I'm learning a lot. My first year betting college football. Appreciate that, man. How you guys feel about Iowa versus Minnesota? Under 6.5
under
first quarter.
Under.
Indeed.
I mean, you're getting 2 field goals with this two horrible offenses. Yeah, take the under.
Yeah, it's going to require like a special teams or defensive touchdown to lose you that bad. I bet against that any day. So yeah, I'm going under. Robert Moore says, what are your thoughts on ULM versus Georgia Southern? I'll kick this one off. I was talking about this one with a buddy earlier this week. Let me pull up the line as I'm saying this. Right now, it's 17. my very short take on this game was this is one where either Georgia Southern wins this one by 30 plus, or else it's one where you look up in the fourth quarter and it's like, oh my God, how is UL Monroe up by 3 right now with like 4 minutes left? I feel like it's like one or the other. But I don't think we're getting really anything in between. I feel like UL Monroe is one of those teams where, and we know this historically since Bowden has taken over, they play up in some of these games and they can ambush the favorite opponent. We've also seen this year, I mean, just look at their box scores. They've done this if you've given some teams some scares. And Georgia Southern, they've also played down a couple times this year, right? But Georgia Southern also has that ability to pour it on lesser opponents, which UL Monroe most certainly is. As far as my line on this one, it is lower. My projected line or adjusted line is Georgia Southern minus 13.4, or I'm sorry, 14.6. I was looking at the wrong thing. So I would lean UL Monroe if I had to bet it, and in addition to all those other factors, but it's a stay away for me. But those are my thoughts. Mike, did you have anything on that one?
Yeah, I'm not trusting anything in this game. I mean, I would lean towards that's a big number. And UL Monroe's not good. We know this, but they've played close in at least a couple games. They went 2-0 and then lost their last 4. They're trending in the wrong direction, but Georgia Southern just got drilled. I don't like laying that many points. I'm not touching this, but I would lean towards UL Monroe covering.
Mike, we got a question about your fighting Biff Pogue. Is it Poggi?
Poggi.
We got a question about your fighting Biff Poggi's. Mike Huseman, our buddy, asked us, I like East Carolina to cover 7.5 against the fighting Poggi's of Charlotte today. Who do you guys like?
I'm taking the Poggi's to cover. I mean, you're giving me a touchdown and a hook. I think East Carolina, I mean, they're not a good football team at all. Not that the Poggi's are any good either, but I mean, they've won one game this year against Gardner Webb. You're giving me 7 and a hook. Give me the Poggi's.
Mike, if you're going to ride with the Poggi's, I'm going to ride with the Poggi's. My line on this is ECU minus 7.2. So we're right in line with where the market is. But I'll ride with the Poggi's on this one. I think the better bet is probably the under. I'm seeing in the market it's 41. My system's total on this one is 33. The Poggi's, they want to do, they're kind of like Sam Houston, eat 'em up cats down there, where it's just, they try to do the rock fight thing. They both want to be like the G5, the low level G5s like Iowa or Utah, I suppose, this year, where it's just like, like make your eyes bleed in the game and just try to make the game like 10-3 kind of game, whatever. And then we'll make it into a coin flip at the end if we're lucky. We'll see if they can against this ECU team. This ECU team is bad. So there is a shot that they can discombobulate that offense enough. But yeah, we'll go under and we'll both lean with Charlotte in that one. Next one, Mike Cirincioni. Sorry if I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of the last name. Appreciate the question. Love this Saturday morning ritual joining you guys. Appreciate it, man. We love doing it for you guys and joining you guys too. Any thoughts on Air Force and Navy? Better weather says strong under due to 18 miles per hour wind. Is there a side you guys like? You probably heard us just talking about that one, but yeah, I would lean towards taking the points. That thing's still over 10. And the yeah, that over under, which you just mentioned. I mean, yeah, between the service academies and you're mentioning the weather, I'm actually not on that site, but hold on, let me pull that up. We'll see what the weather is on that right now. Oh, it is. Yeah, so we got. I'm seeing right now 18 miles per hour winds and rain showers as well are now in the forecast for that one. So yeah, I mean that 2 service academies. Yeah, under is probably the play there. Next question, and appreciate that question. Robert Moore says, what are your thoughts on BYU versus Texas Tech? This one could be a tough watch. Baron Morton, I mean, you guys know that Tyler Shuck gets hurt. Baron Morton got banged up in last week's game, which gave way to a true freshman who did not acquit himself particularly well. Baron Morton is being called a game time decision this week. The updates and whatnot that we have gotten to this point, from my years of reading the tea leaves on the coaches' quotes and whatnot, they don't look the most optimistic to me. Usually you get like a more like the optimism meter, it like starts to go up, as you get closer to game time. I have not seen that with the Baron Morton thing. So from my tea leaf reading, I would guess that he is out, barring the next couple hours we see something that dramatically changes that news, which means I believe the backup is this guy is Jake Strong, I think is what his name is. He was not good last week. I'm pulling up the stats right now. In his
16-28, 3 picks.
So yeah, 16-28, 173 yards, 1 tutty, 3 picks at home against Kansas State in a game Tech lost 38-21. Not the best there. He did have a 154-yard run. I guess he got loose on that. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, the passing was not good. And Baron Morton, for his sake, Baron Morton hadn't been great passing this year either. I liked Baron Morton as a prospect. I actually was like excited when he took over for Shuck because I didn't really like Shuck. But it's like this. It's like, you ever watch that movie Multiplicity, Mike, with Michael Keaton? You ever see that one?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And like he clones himself, and then like the second Michael Keaton, it's like a dumber Michael Keaton. And then it's like the second clone of Michael Keaton, it's like a dumber version yet. And he just keeps cloning himself. And it's like, in this case, it's just every time Texas Tech, they go to another, it's just like a worse Texas Tech quarterback. And the first one wasn't good. And so I feel like we might be moving into the trouble area here with Jake Strong. I had higher hopes for this Texas Tech team. But right now with where we're at, 4.5 or so in the marketplace, my number on this game is Texas Tech minus 3.6. Did you have any thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, I think BYU. I mean, I can't trust Texas Tech with the quarterback situation. BYU is, a solid football team. It's on the road. I would lean towards BYU.
Christian asks us, what is your take on San Diego State versus Nevada? Why has the line gone from minus 13.5 to minus 11.5? Could not find any major injuries. Who would you take here, Mike? Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm leaning towards San Diego State. I'm not touching this one. It's not a bet for me at all, though. I don't know. I mean, San Diego State's been kind of disappointing this season. I'm done. I'm not touching it. I lean towards San Diego State, but I'm not touching it. I mean, Nevada's just horrible. Just horrible.
So so I guess this morning is where it went down to 11.5. That game's not on my card, so I'm not monitoring that line quite as close. My number is San Diego State minus 13.1. As far as I know, I am not aware of any big key player injuries on the San Diego State side.
I don't know either. And again, they should drill them. I mean, they should absolutely destroy them. So,
And also, there's not like a player on the San Diego State side where you're like, this guy is worth multiple points. Like even Maiden. Like, I don't know who you would point to that would be like, oh, he's super valuable. So, yeah, anyway, that one's a stay away for me either way. I mean, for whatever it's worth. Christian says, any chance UCF will be competitive with the Sooners today? You guys fear there would be a backdoor cover? We talked about this one earlier. I do like UCF. Mike, you were on the over, right, of that one? UCF in Oklahoma?
Yeah, I don't like the side. I mean, 17.5 is kind of a weird number for me. But I'm on the over.
Yeah, DDB says, Thor, get the hammer out. Mike is trashing our team. Go Hawks. DDB, wait until the last segment of the show with the Thor's hammer, which has been doing pretty good this year. We'll just do a little foreshadowing to that one for my pick of the day.
Yeah, it's a real tough call, too. You really hammered it. Come on.
That's right. Christian says, planning to place teaser on Oklahoma minus 10, Missouri minus 1.5, and Alabama minus 2. What do you guys think?
That's not bad. I mean,
it wouldn't be. I would go. I mean, just me. I would pick a different 3 teams. Just because I like you. I think Christian. I like UCF a little bit more than you do, and I could see a scenario where UCF loses that one, where it's like an 8-point game or a 7-point game. I also. The Tennessee-Alabama game, we're going to talk about that one in just a second here. That one was a tough one for me, and I don't have any money like on the side of that one myself, but like it wouldn't shock me if Tennessee rises up in that one. I do think Missouri beats South Carolina, so that part of it I'd be with you on, but like it just wouldn't be the one for me.
See, the one that scares me is Missouri, South Carolina. Not that South Carolina is good. I mean, obviously, Shane Beamer's down to 1 foot, and they blew it against Florida, and Missouri is playing very well. But this is the type of game that Missouri just loses. And so that's the one that scares me. I mean, I don't mind getting that line down to 10. If the line's 10, I'm taking Oklahoma for sure. And I think Alabama's winning outright, but we're going to talk about that one coming up. So I don't hate this, but Missouri would scare me. And I know people are saying, well, Missouri's ranked 20th, they're good. No, this is kind of like the perfect scenario for Missouri to just, no pun intended, stub their toe against Shane Beamer.
Mike, the next one, question from Mike Lukovitz. He says, J.J. McCarthy's rushing prop, 17 yards over or under.
I go over. A couple of scampers. You're over that. Again, this one really comes down to how long is he going to be in the game, and what are they going to show against Michigan State? I mean, this is it's a joke of a game. But instinctually, this is the funny thing. Watch Thursday Night Football, right, Trevor? And not that J.J. McCarthy's hurt, but you watch Trevor Lawrence with the knee thing, and like, oh my gosh, we're not going to risk injury with Trevor Lawrence. He just has to take off and run. It's an instinctual thing, and J.J. McCarthy's not. He's similar to Trevor Lawrence in the fact that he's not a designed run guy, but there are going to be a couple times he's going to tuck and run. So I think he's going to get in the 20-yard range. I would take the over.
I think I would lean over too. This is another one where there's going to be wind swirling around and whatnot. In instances where he doesn't like the look, he should tuck and run. They don't have a great pass rush either for deducting the yards, which you do in college, from the rushing total. And last data point, last year against Michigan State, a game that Michigan won 29-7. McCarthy ran 7 times for 50 yards. So I would skew that one over. Let's see. Sergio Guerra says, how is Duke's secondary? I was looking hard at Keon Coleman's over yards. Duke's secondary is actually pretty solid. And Mike Elko is, what would you call him, a mad scientist, Mike? Mike Elko is a very good defensive mind. Does he have the horses for this one? That's what we're going to find out. But you better believe Mike Elko has been in the lab the last 7 days. Like, how are we going to figure this one out against Florida State's offense? This is one we're going to be talking about in a bit here. So maybe we should return to this one. But did you have any just really brief thoughts before we do break?
As good as Mike Elko is as a coach, as great as a defensive schemer as he is, I mean, it's just hard to stop just elite talent. And then he and Travis are kind of like on. So I like a lot of offensive overs is a little bit of a foreshadowing hint for Florida State. I like a lot of offensive overs for them. I think they're going to put up some big numbers.
Then we got just a couple more questions. We'll get back into the games, the rest of the slate, guys. Any thought? John Caravone asks us, any thoughts on Georgia State plus 3.5? That is another G5 game that is on my card. I like Georgia State today. I think Georgia State is live. My number on that game was, so Georgia State's traveling to Louisiana today. I like this Georgia State team. I do not like that Louisiana team. Louisiana's been playing without their starting quarterback, Woolridge, for since like week 2 or whatever. And I don't love their coaching staff or their talent anyway. The Raging Cajuns team. I think Georgia State wins that game. So I'm on. I have a little bit with the plus the points. I also have a bit on the money line of that one as well. Mike, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Same thing. Georgia State.
Yeah. Then we got next one. XYZipper02 says, thoughts on Henrik Harburg's rushing yards. Don't have that one in front of us, but typically that would be a good over depending on what that number is. But against Northwestern, he's going to be running around today. That's what most of what the offense is.
I don't know why anybody would have that in front of them.
Yeah.
But it's 52.5, which is pretty high.
52.5. Yeah. We got 13 miles per hour winds there. So, there's a slight under lean in that one, a slight suppression of the passing as well. So there might be a slight incentivization for the Nebraska staff to, scramble them around even more.
A little too high for me, though. I wouldn't touch that.
Yeah, I do think there's better values on the board. It's not one that I'm on. I am on the only prop I'm on from the top of my head in that game is I'm on the under of what was it? Billy Kemp. It was low 50s receiving yards.
50.5, yeah.
I'm on the under of Mr. Billy Kemp. Next one, R. Stu says, hey guys, great show as usual with the info. Appreciate that, man. Who do you guys like on the money line for the Georgia State Louisiana game? Georgia State. We both like Georgia State. Don Draper says, is West Virginia and Oklahoma State on the board? We're not talking about that one today, but we can give you a quick take on it. My line on that game is West Virginia minus 1.7. Live, it's 3.5 right now. I would go. My lean would be Oklahoma State because recently here, the past 3 weeks or so, they figured it out with their offense by going away from that silly 3 quarterback rotation that they've been doing, that silly 2 running back rotation that they have been doing, and just sort of getting back to the basics of what their offense, is with the players that they've decided to trust to run it. And they've ticked way up after doing that. I also think West Virginia needs to get off the mat from the game that they just lost with the Hail Mary to Houston, in the same way where Miami had to get off the mat from theirs. And, last Miami played okay last week, but obviously ended up losing, didn't get the cover against UNC. This is a tough one for West Virginia turning around, a week plus later, and you have to play a team that is suddenly streaking in Oklahoma State. I will call for Oklahoma State to pull the upset. Mike Farrell, any thoughts
Me
on that
too.
one?
Cowboys win outright. Money line it.
DDB says, are there props for punters? Tory Taylor will be MVP today with 40-mile-per-hour gusts.
Sure
I
is.
wish from your list.
There is none.
Yours.
No, I looked. I wished. I would do the over 10 punts. I would do over regarded. Nope, not out there.
And then DDB says, Thor, there is a city in Iowa named Thor. Must be named after you. I did not know that. I need to go there and grab one of the city things. One of the welcome to Thor. That is sweet. We're going to get
illegal, by the way. You can't really steal those.
Well, Mike, you and me need to go there, and we'll hobnob, and then we'll out of the city limits. We'll just steal that thing.
Well, maybe this show will take us on the road someday.
Maybe we'll go to Thor, Iowa. We're gonna get back to the games right now, guys. If you would not mind, please do us just one small favor, which is just click the little thumbs up button right beneath our faces. Very simple thing. That's all we ask from you guys. Helps us get the word out there that the show's going on. That's all we need from you. And also, if you don't mind subscribing, then you can type questions in as well. But then the world will go around. Mike, let's get into the afternoon games here. Oregon and Washington State, I believe, is the first game on our docket with regards to that. Oregon, 20-point favorite in the market right now, having to bounce back from their own disappointment last week against Washington. What do you like in this one?
Everything speaks to Oregon with a big bounce back. Washington State's been playing terribly. I mean, not terrible. I mean, UCLA was but it's inexplicable what happened against Arizona. But 20 is a lot. I'm leaning towards Wazoo here. Not that Oregon is going to really be downtrodden and defeated after that loss against Washington, but I don't know. It's just too much. I know it's in Oregon. I know they're going to be angry. I know they're going to be wanting to take it out against Washington State, but 20 is too much for me. I think Oregon wins this game by 14 or so.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Mike. It's a tough one because you're wondering, is Oregon, is the effort going to be just as good after the deflating loss, and then is there any shot that Washington State can get off the mat after these bizarre last couple games? We had talked about Washington State over the summer. We did our Pac-12 preview episode, and I was super pessimistic on Washington State relative to the market. I took their under on their win total and different stuff like that. Then I looked like a moron in September when Washington State was just, blowing the doors off people and Cam Ward was looking awesome. But then in October, they've reverted to a team like the opposite, where they're a team that's even worse than what I thought they were going to look like in the summer. So they're like this bizarro team that it's really hard to get your finger on. But I think overall, I'm sort of with you. This Oregon team, they sort of look like a Goliath, and I think what the scenario there is that Washington and Oregon just are that good. What you were seeing on your screen last Saturday is just two teams that are college football playoff caliber. Oregon offense, number 2 in success rate, number 4 points per opportunity. The Cougar defense, you can pass on them. You can certainly run on them. I think this is a big day for Bucky Irving, for instance. I would go over on his props as far as the rushing. The Oregon pass defense, you always look at the pass defense of the opponent of a team against Wazoo because their whole ethos is just throw with Cam Ward. Oregon's pass defense, number 9 in success rate. You recall last week against Washington on the road, the Ducks held Michael Penix season low 302 passing yards. For Cam Ward, a guy who the last 2 weeks Again, in September, he was great. Last 2 weeks, he's been held under 200 passing yards both times. And in those two games, Mike Farrell, a 1-3 TDI&T ratio for Cam Ward. This is a really tough assignment now. Now he has to go out to Eugene and face an Oregon pass defense that is really, really good. I think that is a really hard assignment here for Cam Ward. I don't see a bounce back game coming for him. There might be some flip field coming as far as that goes. I think Oregon's offense pours it on here. That this is a statement game. I think Bucky Irvin runs wild. I think Bo Nix has a really good game in his sort of trying to plant the flag for him to get his name back in the Heisman race. Oregon needs to get their name back in the CFP deal and all that sort of stuff. I'm gonna go over in this one. I think the line is fair. But between the fact that I think, and really what I would do is go over on whatever the Oregon team total deal is, but I'll just say over for the game because we usually don't do the exotics. But over for that. I'm not as confident on the Wazoo side, but we'll go over on that.
I think it's going to be a good passing day for Bo Nix, I think. Like I said, 20 is too much for me. I still think Wazoo is going to keep this within a couple touchdowns, but a couple props. Terrence Ferguson walked off the field, looked okay after that injury at the end of the season. 29 and a half receiving yards. I always love finding tight ends that are a little bit low. We've made money on that over the last couple of years. 29 and a half receiving yards for Ferguson, I think is low. I would take the over on that. And Troy Franklin had his coming out party last week. 98 and a half receiving yards, go over on that. I think he's
good, man.
Trajectory really is up on him. So he's starting to, starting to make that NFL buzz and noise. And he was a highly recruited kid out of high school, big get for Mario Cristobal down in California. Super talented kid. I think you just start to see him break out. So over 98 and a half there.
Yeah, for me, the prop on that one is Irving. I also went under on the Cam Ward passing for the reasons that I just mentioned, him being in the tank recently, the Oregon pass defense. Mike, moving to our next one in the afternoon kickoff, or the afternoon window, Alabama hosting Tennessee. Line right now, or at least when we kicked off the show, is Alabama -8.5. Don't know if we've had any line movement on that one during the show. The total on this one, 48. Who do you like in this one today, this game in Tuscaloosa?
I'm going under. I mean, I think, this number, 48, is slightly inflated based on last year's result. I know that doesn't play into it. I know this is all analytics about, how they're scoring and how their defense is this season, but 48 seems high. These are two teams that have to run the football. These are two teams that have to, rely on that. Tennessee's not the Tennessee team from last year. So I think a lot of people see that 48 and they want to pop over. To me, it's the under. I think Alabama is going to win this football game. I don't know if they're going to win by 8.5. I mean, I don't really know how good Tennessee is. They look solid here and there, but they go back to the Florida game where they looked horrible. If you can stop the run, Tennessee has no solution whatsoever on offense, which is the opposite of last year. But their defense is playing a little bit better. So give me the under here. I don't like a side.
Yeah, I say, Mike, we agree on this one. I'm on the under as well. And thank you for giving the very brief wardrobe change. Thor is getting a little hot.
I didn't even see that. Thank God.
It was like a magic trick. I do really like the under of this game, though. It just seems like that's the way, it's sort of like the A&M Tennessee game where you just looked at it and you're like, this is for sure an under game. That's what this one feels like as well. Tennessee, they just badly struggled to throw the ball, particularly down the field. That's one of the ways where you can get Alabama, but I just don't think that's a viable path for Tennessee. Joe Milton, under 40% adjusted completion percentage on throws, 20-plus yards downfield. Joe Milton also struggles with being under duress and under pressure. So that's not good for him here. The route where Tennessee could carve out some yards, Jalen Wright has gone over 100 yards, 4 of 6 of the past 6 games. Alabama's defensive front, you can push them back a little bit. You can carve out some yards with the efficiency there. I do think that Tennessee can do that, but that's going to have the effect of the clock running and keep running and different stuff like that. You flip the field the other way. Alabama, obviously, this offense has become more methodical, more run heavy. Tennessee's run defense, even last year when their pass defense stunk, their run defense was awesome. Their run defense is awesome again this year. they're going to hinder Jason McClellan greatly. Number one, I'm on the unders of Jason McClellan. I think they were set way too high based on the defense that they're facing was like 67 or like something like that, or whatever he was set at. So I'm on the unders of his. The Tennessee doesn't give up the explosive plays either, against the run or the pass. Jalen Milroe is going to have to be on in this one. Alabama's offensive line has struggled. Tennessee can get the heat. Tennessee's, like I said, is going to be able to take away some of that efficiency. So Jalen Milroe is going to be back in some of those third and longs where then Tennessee can tee off. The Crimson Tide offensive line, 127th in pressures allowed so far this season. The one saving grace is Jalen Milroe's been good under pressure, and you can hit those downfield shots against Tennessee. They do leave themselves susceptible down there. And we've seen a similar game from Jalen Milroe against a team with sort of a similar defensive profile where he succeeded. That was the A&M game where A&M kept sacking Jalen Milroe, but then on like the third and longs and stuff, he would hit Jermaine Burton downfield when A&M would leave themselves thin back there with the blitzing and whatnot. That's what Bama needs to do to win this game and win this game by double digits and cover this one. I have to stay off this side, though, because I don't trust Joe Milton, Ken Milroe, do that stuff down the field, yada, yada. The under is the thing that I'm super confident in. Like the defenses, don't like that other stuff. So we're going the under. I like the Jalen Wright over 58 and a half rushing yards.
I agree.
I go under on Isaiah Bond, 39 and a half receiving yards. The passing, the other one, the Tennessee receivers, I was under on Keaton. I'm trying to think which other one. I was under on another dude on Tennessee. And then Jace McClellan, I'm also under. So, we got some of the Milroe.
I'm under on Milroe passing yards.
Okay. Yeah. And that's just going to come down to, can you hit the downfield shots? But yeah, if you don't think so, definitely go under on that one. The running yards with Milroe is where it gets interesting, because some of these recent games, ever since the report of the hamstring injury in practice, he hasn't been going over them rushing yards. Is it going to be different? Is he, better now? We'll have to see on that one. Mike, we'll do a quick hitter here with the Kansas State TCU game. Kansas State minus 6.5 hosting TCU today. We're definitely seeing my boy Hoover on the TCU side. Probably seeing more of Avery Johnson again, after we saw him a bit last week on the Kansas State side. Who do you like in this one?
Give me K-State. I know you're all in on Hoover now, and
yeah,
obviously that was a big game, but it's Kansas State. Like they're kind of disappointing this season because we expected a lot after winning it last year, and 2 losses at this stage of the season, but they're still an extremely well-coached football team. They lost to a good Missouri team. They lost to a streaking Oklahoma State team, but I still don't believe in TCU. Now, that being said, I do like, I think Trey Sanders is going to score. So if you want to do an anytime touchdown on him, but Kansas State's 8-3 against the spread in their last 11 games, 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 at home. They're a good bet against the spread still, despite the 2 losses. So give me Kansas State. I know we're going to disagree on this one.
Yeah, Mike, I got a theory for you, and it's not even like a conspiracy Thor one. I just think I don't think I'm going much out on a limb. I don't think Chandler Morris is any good.
He's not.
Yeah, he got benched for Dugan, and then he gets injured in this one, and Hoover comes in, and it's like, oh God, maybe TCU's offense is good. It's just that Chandler Morris
He's the Joe Milton of the Big 12.
He's the Joe Milton of the Big 12.
Yeah.
That's what he is. Maybe this Hoover kid, you get in like a competent quarterback play, and now you can, a much smaller version of what you seen last year. Maybe the offense sort of takes off now. TCU, they have talent. They turned over a lot of the roster, but they still have a lot of talent. They certainly have a really good coaching staff. This TCU team was very close to being much better than is perceived. They lost to Colorado and West Virginia by 3 points. They can do a lot of stuff. And the one weakness or the most pronounced weakness of this Kansas State defense, you can hit them long in the passing game. That was the thing that we seen Hoover doing over and over last week. We don't have a bunch of exposure to him. We just have that BYU game. But he was hitting those downfield seam shots and whatnot, and he looked composed in that game. We'll see it in this one. Now you got to travel out to the Little Apple. We'll see how he does in this one. But the weakness of that Kansas State pass defense is something that Hoover showed in his first game that he could exploit. I'm taking the points. I would also suggest with the rushing props, I did a couple things taking the overs on the Kansas State running backs. They have the 2 of them, but I honestly I dabbled on both of them because you can run on TCU. So for me, it's like take the overs on the TCU passing, take the overs on the Kansas State rushing.
Yeah,
I guess would be my
DJ Giddens,
DJ
I
Giddens.
think it's 61.5 yards. He'll go over that.
Yeah. We'll get to the night games here in just a second, but wanted to encourage everybody to join Betting Pros' college football contest. The link to that is bettingpros.com/college. We have monthly giveaways and a season-long prize for the season-long winner. Users can join the group, and their NCAA picks for all season will be counted towards this. The contest is scored on ROI. The link again to join that thing is bettingpros.com/college. And guys, if you've been trying to type a question in, but it's not letting you, the reason you just have to subscribe to the channel that we're on right now, the Betting Pros YouTube channel. So just hit the subscribe button right there. It's
Doesn't
free.
Cost anything.
And all you have to do is literally click the button. It's not going to send you anything. Just literally click that button right there. It also helps us. And then click that little thumbs up button too. It helps us get the word out as well. We're gonna. Mike, you want to get to audience question now, or should we save that for right before?
There's only a couple of those, so let's hammer through these late games, and then we'll hit audience questions, and then we'll do your overly predictable hammer and my overly predictable fade.
Awesome. So guys, with the audience questions, keep putting them in, and we'll hit them right before the end of the show. We're just gonna roll through 3 more games here before we get to them. Mike, so we'll hop into the evening slate here. The first one, Florida State. Mike, do you see the live line in this one? This one we've sort of seen some toggling because of the status of Riley Leonard, which, by the way, I was trying to do some detective work this morning and check in on it. The official word we're getting out of the Riley Leonard camp is the same that we're getting publicly. The party line is that it will be a game time decision. I don't know if that's the truth. Like if they actually know what the status is there, but that is what we are hearing.
So it's 14.5 live. I don't think he's going to play. I don't have any inside knowledge on that. Just based on everything I'm hearing, it's probably going to be he's not going to play.
That movement from the 13.5 to the 14.5 would seem to be indicative of exactly what you just said, Mike Farrell. And if that is confirmed, I would expect this to get closer to close this thing like at more like 15.5, 16. Get closer to this, not 217, but like closer to that range once it's confirmed that he's out for this game. But with all that being said, and perhaps under the assumption that we're going to get Henry Bellin, the 4th or 3rd or whatever he is, Mike, who do you like in this game?
Florida State. I think this is going to be a big offensive performance for them. I've got a lot of props here. I got Trey Benson over 73.5 yards rushing, Jordan Travis over 250.5. You could go wide receivers if you want to. Somebody asked about Keon. I think this is going to be an explosive performance. Elko's a good coach. He's a good defensive guy. He schemes well. They just don't have the horses to hang with Florida State. Florida State's starting to get into rhythm offensively. They're starting to click. The running game is finally, it took weeks for it to build up, and now it's starting to, roll a little bit. And that just changes everything, because then you have to be closer to the line of scrimmage. It gives Travis opportunities, play action or downfield. I think Florida State's going to roll big on this one. I can't see a way they lose, and I don't see them winning this game by less than 17 points. So give me Florida State, even at the 14.5. I don't think he's going to play. I don't think Riley Leonard's going to play, and that's huge for Duke. I mean, they can't hang in this game with their backup.
For sure, yeah. And in this one, so you have the it appears as though Henry Bellin's going to play. Another injury status news for people to keep in mind. It appears that Johnny Wilson is going to be returning for Florida State. I believe he missed the last 2 games. So they're going to get him as a complement to Keon Coleman in this game, the Florida State passing offense. But to the point about the Duke pass defense and their secondary, into the question that we had earlier about the Coleman passing prop, the Duke pass defense is the best thing that Duke does. Duke against defensive passing success rate, number 8, passing marginal explosiveness on defense for Duke. Number 4, yards per dropback. Number 7, adjusted net air yards per attempt. Number 5, number 3 in touchdown percentage. Number 3 in percentage of completions that go 20 plus yards. QBR by the opponent. Number 6. Duke is very good in their pass defense. The one area where you can carve out the yards consistently on Duke, it's against their run defense. So, Mike, I like what you said about the over on the Trey Benson, especially because this game script is going to flip, I think, in the direction of Trey Benson really early. And then he's going head on with the weakness of the Duke defense besides. So for those reasons, yeah, I like that. The Coleman one, it would depend on the number. I'm probably staying away from that for the reasons that I just suggested. And Jordan Travis is now working on this ludicrously long streak where he hasn't thrown an interception. You notice against some of these better pass defenses, it seems like he gets more risk averse. That's one of the reasons why the streak is, and it's a very impressive streak. I think it's 169 passes in a row, I think is where we're at right now. But in this game, Norvell is going to impress upon him. Jordan, one of the only paths we have to lose this game is turning the ball over multiple times and then, showing him the clip of Duke against Clemson. Look how Clemson lost this game. If we don't do this, we win. So don't turn the ball over. So anyway, whole point being, is that a game environment, a game script that is conducive for instance, a Keon Coleman over or some? I don't think so as much. It feels way more advantageous for a guy like Trey Benson, and that Florida State running attack has been getting better ever since the bye week, ever since that Virginia Tech game. So those would be the things that I would go over on. As far as the side on this game, what I like, I would go Florida State, even at the, we put it in at the 13.5 number, even at the 14.5 number. Seems if Riley Leonard was playing, it would be a different thing because then you'd have the Elko defense. You'd have Leonard. Duke runs at an extremely elevated rate, and then you have Leonard's legs. And I'm not as the Bellin kid. There's the odds that he makes a mistake at a way more elevated rate than Leonard does. It just sort of falls apart for me with the Duke backup quarterback in. So I'm going with Florida State in that one. Mike, moving to our next one, Duke. I'm sorry, we just talked about Duke, USC and Utah. Can USC pick itself up off the mat after what happened last Saturday night? An utter travesty where Caleb Williams could not, get himself out of a paper sack. He had the 3 interceptions, all in the first half, I think, and that was a career high. He never had 3 interceptions in a game before. We have a live line on this one of USC -7. Mike, who do you like in this game?
I like Utah. And again,
your boys.
Cam Rising's not going to play. He's on the depth chart now, but he's not going to play. And the reason here, so we mentioned a few minutes ago about the prop. One of the props I love the most is over Caleb Williams over 2.5 touchdowns. So he's going to have a bounce back game. There's no doubt about it. He's too talented. He plays to a very high level in this matchup. He's got a little bit of revenge on his mind. I think he's going to have a very, very strong passing game. So I would take the, above 2.5 touchdowns. I think he might throw for 3 or 4. That being said, Utah kind of has USC's number. They know how to game plan for them. And there's no way USC can stop the rushing attack of Utah. They just don't have the guys up front to do that. They're just horrible defensively. They're going to let you down consistently, and you're going to have to outscore them. So if you give me a touchdown, against a team that has their number, so to speak, can play physical with them, can win the battles up front, I'm taking Utah to cover this one. I still think USC bounces back and wins this game, but to me, it's still a toss-up as to whether they will or won't. I could easily see them losing this game as well and things going really south and Lincoln Riley chopping himself around for more NFL jobs and Caleb Williams, having a good game but getting frustrated. This thing is ready to implode from a locker room standpoint. But I think USC is going to win the game, but not by 7.
Yeah. So I am going to lay it with USC. Even at the 7 points right now, we do got a bit. You have the bounce back spot in conjunction with the revenge spot. Utah has had USC's number recently, as we know, 3 straight wins. Last year we had the 2 in the big spot, different stuff like that. But Utah, I'm sorry, a team that is severely injury depreciated right now. Rising and Keithy, we talk about every week. Newest one, we had Thomas Yasmin. Another big one to watch, by the way. And this one will go into our Caleb Williams talk here in a second. Cole Bishop, the safety, is out for the first half with a targeting deal. And another big thing for me in this handicap is Utah, and this goes back years and years and years. They're awesome at home, and when they go away from home, it's not quite the same thing. You have a team that has one of the better home field advantages in college football, and it's again it's sort of flipped when they're on the road. This season they're undefeated at home. On the road, dominated by Oregon State. Should have lost to a Baylor team that stinks. Utah got super lucky in that game to come back at the end. Now they have to go on the road and they have to face this really, really good USC offense. Utah last week was playing a converted safety at running back. He ended up running for 158 yards against Cal, this Sione Vaki. Can they play that kid both ways in this game where their other safety is out for the first half? I don't know. And then you have the USC team presumably more locked in for this game. You would assume, you would hope, you would pray than they've been the entire season. I'm not sure. And then the Utah offense is just so friggin' bad. It is. Is it better than Iowa's? Yeah, maybe marginally, but Utah's offense, one of 14 in the country that averages less than 5 yards per play. If Caleb Williams and those guys have any pride at all, and they start putting the points on the board, Utah just doesn't have any recourse whatsoever. And you can throw a little bit on the Utah team, particularly the long balls and the explosive plays. So I do expect Caleb Williams to bounce back. To your point, my favorite prop in this, it's the Caleb Williams over passing yards. Some people in the market apparently disagree with me on this one. We're all wrong if Caleb Williams doesn't throw for 275, 280 plus yards in this game. If he can't bounce back at home against a Utah team that has been the walking mash unit all season long, he shouldn't be the first pick, in my opinion. Like, I will give him the pass for the Notre Dame game, and I will give him a pass for some of the struggles that we've seen to this point. This is the game where you need to lock in now, right? Or the season becomes lost at this point, and I think we do. I think we're going to get it, and there is a path to it because, again, Utah allows those explosives, and their back end is depreciated in this game with the one kid is out for the first half. The other kid's going to have to play both ways. I like USC in this game, and I really, really like the Caleb Williams over passing yards. I think Caleb Williams is getting over 300 in this game. Mike, Clemson and Miami, we got the nightcap in this one. Is it 3.5? We've been toggling around there. Clemson on the road at Miami. Who do you like in this one?
Clemson. This Miami team's done. I faded him last week, and little hint, I'm going to fade him again. There's just that game against Georgia Tech just took all the life out of this football team. They're having trouble, rebounding against that. They obviously lost to North Carolina. That could have been a much, much worse loss. Clemson, Dabo's deflecting all the attention away from his team and his staff, and he's, taking it on himself, bitching about the fan base and the expectations, and maybe we should lose some more games and aw shucks and all that stuff. When Dabo does that, Clemson usually comes out and plays very well. So the live line is Miami getting 3 at home. They're still selling tickets to this game. The home field is going to be horrendous. I don't I know that they don't have an on-campus stadium, but the fan base support of this Miami football team is just so bad. I mean, this is Clemson coming to town, and they can't sell out. The team itself hasn't recovered from that Georgia Tech loss. I'm not sure they will for the rest of the season. They're not going to lose out. But I'm not betting on a fragile team like this. Give me Clemson with a little something to prove, a little bit of Dabo anger, and I think they're going to win by 10.
Mike, do we know if Tyler Van Dyke is going to be playing?
The assumption is he is.
Okay. Yeah, so with Tyler Van Dyke, I'm taking those points. The Clemson defense, they're going to take away Miami's run game for sure. I do believe that. Clemson number 8 run defense success rate. So a very good one, but you can throw a little bit on the Clemson defense and Tyler Van Dyke. You would think this would be a game where he would be locked in and whatnot. He has struggled in recent games. He really needs to be locked in if he wants to go to the NFL after this season. I know he does. Van Dyke has 5 interceptions the last 2 games. But again, this is the kind of game where Miami's fans actually show up and pack that place. They didn't for the Georgia Tech one. They don't when they don't have the opponent.
Bro. They're still selling tickets. It's not going to be close to a sellout.
You don't think that tonight?
No, as of a couple hours ago, they still had thousands of tickets available.
No, we'll
It's
see.
unbelievable. It's
The
unbelievable.
the Clemson team, their offense, it's it remains weird. They can run the ball a little bit. They can do the short passing a bit, but the passing explosion is not like categorically is not there. And there's a number of reasons for this. The primary ones, the receivers stink. Klubnik's arm is solid, but like he doesn't have any time in the pocket either. So Clemson is 128th in passing explosion. And like I said, that the Clemson offensive line isn't great either. For some of those reasons, if you're giving me 3.5 with a home team here and Van Dyke is playing, my line on this game, Clemson minus 1.2, I'm going to take the points with Miami and we're going to ride go Canes. Mike Farrell, let's just dive back into our mailbag really quick. We just got a couple minutes. Let's get through as many as we can, and then we will give our locks for the day. Getting out of here. Where were we in the mailbag?
So we're at looking for one more. No. I'm sorry, we're above that.
Oh, here we are. Christian, he says, Mike, he says Mizzou over 58.
Yeah.
Over 58, guys. Let's see.
I like the over in that game. I like South Carolina, Mizzou. I like the over in that game.
Yeah, I'm down with that too. I'm the props in that game. I love them all. Over on Brady Cook passing yards. Over on Spencer Rattler passing yards. I think we're getting offense. So thumbs up on that one, Christian. Mike Huseman asks us, Ole Miss against Auburn. What do you guys think of Ole Miss minus 6.5, as well as Quinshon Judkins 89.5 rushing yards prop? What do you think, Mike?
Ole Miss going to cover, and I would take that. I would think Judkins going to go over 89.5.
Yeah, I absolutely hate watching Auburn, so I don't want that one on my television. But yeah, I would probably lean that way. And on both accounts, the Auburn run defense, not good. 79th rushing success rate, 116th in rushing explosion allowed. So, but yeah. Danny McGillicuddy asks us, what book has these college props? DK and FanDuel don't have individual player props. Actually,
they do.
They do. Yeah.
They do. What's your prop site? You get it. I mean, every prop on what is it?
Yeah. I'm sort of wondering which book doesn't, but yeah. I mean,
No,
Danny,
no.
they're all over the place.
The one you reference all the time. What is it called?
My bookie. I mean, all the exotics got them.
No, the props.
Oh, Prize Picks.
Yeah, that should be the sponsor for the show. Prize Picks.
Yeah, they should.
If you want to go on Prize Picks. Now, it's weird because for some reason here in Connecticut, I don't think you can bet on props and Prize Picks or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, DraftKings and
there's some states where some laws, some books you know, like
stupid.
But yeah, I mean they're
like I can't bet on the NFL draft.
Oh, that's
just so bad.
Mike, fly out to Minnesota.
I should leave the state for that day. But yeah, DraftKings and FanDuel have them. You just got to find them.
Christian asks us, LSU Army under 60, LSU minus 32. Mike,
I like Army to cover the 32 simply because, and this is the stupidest reason you're ever going to say, LSU paid homage to Army with their end zone paint, and I don't think Brian Kelly's going to run it up on it.
Oh, love it. Yeah, I'm on Army too. Yeah, why? I mean, LSU's defense stinks, and also I tell you guys, it's an over on every LSU game. It's just, I mean, you don't think about it. Even with an Army one, LSU's defense is going to make Army look like, it's going to be like high flying today. They're going to look like the old Rich Rod, Steve Slayton, Pat White. Who is the fullback, Mike, that we all love? Owen Schmidt, whatever. It's gonna be like that team. Okay. So we're going over, and then I take Army. Sergio Gora says, looking for one more prop. What's the prop lock of the week? I'll give you 5. How about that?
Jesus Christ.
I'll give you a 5.
That's awesome.
I'm going the James McClellan. I'm going the under. Was it 67.5? It's like something like that. I mentioned that one before. KJ Jefferson. Someone will have to tell me what his passing yards is at now, because the tickets I'm looking at, it's all from earlier this week.
Horrible.
He was in the low 220s earlier this week.
Horrible.
Whatever his passing yards are at, take the over. Rocket Sanders is out again. Mississippi State's defense has all kinds of injuries. Mississippi State also is not going to be without Will Rogers today, so they're down. That team stinks anyways. But Arkansas's offense, they just throw whenever Rocket's not in, because they just isolate all the usage on KJ Jefferson. Not a great passer, which is why,
it's except against BYU when I took over passing yards, which really upset me.
Yeah, but we're going to get there against Mississippi State. Then I'm going the under on Cam Ward passing yards. I mentioned that before. I would that thing has come way down the last couple of days, so I'm not sure where that is, but I would probably still be comfortable with where it is. It was in the low 250s earlier this week. I believe it was in the 240s yesterday. But anyway, I would still be on the under on that. I would still be on the over on the Brady Cook passing yards, which has gone up. I would assume it's probably in the low 300s now. I got it low 290s. I know it was in the mid 290s yesterday, creeping towards the high 290s. I'm still on the over on that one. And then I love the Caleb Williams over passing yards. I don't think it's high enough. You have, it's a human psychology problem, really, but you always see the 1 week backlash and then you get the enormous discounts. I'm fine with that. Give me the over on the Caleb Williams passing. I really like that one. And by the way, if you just do the USC money line, you parlay that with the over on Caleb Williams, you get better than 2-1 on your money. Give me that. I like that one. Okay. The next one, Kyrie Hart says Dylan Gabriel over passing yards. Thor is on the under of that one. David Hoffman says, who do you like in Nebraska versus Northwestern? My line, you like Nebraska in that one, Mike? Mm-hmm. My line was live. We got 11. My line's 10.5. I'm staying away from that one. I just to disagree with Mike, I'll take the points with Northwestern. Snook Slayer says Utah State plus 4.5. Faith in Cooper Lagasse. Mike, do you have faith in Cooper Lagasse?
Zero interest in that football game, and I'm not taking it.
I don't either. My system does have San Jose State minus 2.2. I would actually lean towards San Jose State, though. My system would be the other way, but San Jose State's played a bunch of tough teams, so I don't know if the data completely has a grip on them. Jamal Hill says I was thinking Penn State first half under thoughts. I'm on Penn State on that one, and I disagree with most of the market. I skew that one a little bit over, but we talked about that one.
I like the first half under in that one, though, so we disagree on that one.
So, okay, Mike.
Hammer time.
It is hammer time. Reach the end of the show. Mike Farrell, you know exactly where I'm going with this one. I've been talking about this one all week. We have a record or it appears that we're going to get the record for the lowest point total in college football history with the Iowa-Minnesota game. I don't care. I'm going with the under anyway. I have seen this movie before. I was in the building last November in Minneapolis for Iowa, Minnesota with the game that was previously the lowest point total in college football history. That thing went under without a sweat. I was on the under in that game. We cashed a ticket. And then a month later for the Kentucky-Iowa bowl game, I was on the under in that one for heavy money. We went under in that one without a sweat. You better believe I got a fat ticket on the under on this one. I bought it on Sunday at 32.5. It has since dropped by 2 points. Mike, you mentioned that now even God is helping us out with the under, with the swirling 20 miles per hour winds. These teams couldn't throw anyway, but now the forces of nature have gotten involved as well. Under. I don't care that it's a record. We're going under again, and we're going to get there. What is your Farrell fade, Mr. Mike?
I'm fading Miami. I'm not going to do this every week, I don't think. But again, Clemson coming in there, Dabo complaining about the fan base always makes them play a little better for some reason. Miami's lost every ounce of energy and interest in this season after the Georgia Tech debacle where they should have taken a knee. I'm not sure if Mario's lost his team or not, but I know they should have got drilled even worse against UNC. Clemson's going to absolutely drill them on the road. So take Clemson, laying the 3. They're going to win by 10 or more, and fade Miami.
Love it. Guys, that's all the time that we have for today. We'll see you back here 1 week from today. Same time, same place. Until then, for Mr. Mike Farrell, I'm Thor Nystrom. Let's cash some tickets.